These are the most painful wingsuit accidents ever recorded, ranging from close calls to the ones that ended in horror.
Tier 1. Brushed with death.
Eric Dos Santos. Eric Dos Santos is a 30-year-old man from San Diego, California, and a part of a new generation of wingsuit pilots pushing the limits of what the human body can do in freefall. He spent months planning a series of proximity flights in the French Alps, focusing on the forests near Chamonix, a region known for its tight valleys, jagged rock formations, and dense trees.
In 2016, he launched himself off a cliff, flying through treetops at nearly 90 miles per hour.
His GoPro footage shows him soaring inches above the forest floor, weaving between narrow trunks, pulling off one of the riskiest stunts in modern wingsuit history, when suddenly it all went wrong. In a fraction of a second, Eric clips an 8-inch thick pine tree.
The impact is violent and immediate. His wingsuit rips, and his body folds.
Eric crashes into the forest and slams onto the ground like a rag doll.
His injuries are catastrophic, including crushed ribs, a fractured clavicle, severe liver damage, and blunt force trauma to the head. For the next 3 hours, Eric lies broken in the forest alone, barely conscious and bleeding internally.
There is no phone signal available, but by pure chance, hikers eventually spot him, call for help, and airlift him to safety. When asked about it later, Eric said something haunting. "I sheared off an 8-inch diameter tree. I should have died." Eli Thompson.
Eli Thompson was an American skydiver and base jumper, and is considered as a founding figure of modern base jumping. He was an experienced skydiver with over 13,000 jumps to his name. He was a respected instructor, U.S. Nationals champion, and one of the early adopters of wingsuit flying when the sport was still in its experimental stages. By 2009, Thompson was filming a series of advanced proximity wingsuit flights with fellow elite jumpers in the Swiss Alps, which is one of the most extreme playgrounds in aerial sports.
The group was focusing on showcasing low-altitude, high-speed passes for visual impact, often flying just feet from cliff faces and ridgelines. These were not recreational jumps. They were part of a documented project that intended to highlight the boundaries of human flight and the evolution of terrain flying.
In August of 2009, Eli boarded a helicopter hovering high above the Swiss Alps. He launched from the helicopter in full wingsuit gear, soaring at terrifying speeds just feet from the mountain surface. The goal was to carve close to the terrain, a maneuver known as proximity flying, where one slight miscalculation can turn into tragedy, and it did.
Mid-flight, Eli collided directly into the mountain face. There was no parachute deployment, and he died on impact. Dean Potter and Graham Hunt. Dean Potter was an adventurer from New Boston, known for redefining limits. Potter had built his reputation through a combination of rock climbing, highlining, and later, wingsuit base jumping.
He was famous for completing free solo climbs without ropes, walking tight ropes across cliffs, and flying in wingsuits through some of the world's most unforgiving terrains. Yosemite was both his backyard and home for many years. He viewed flight as a deeply spiritual experience, often comparing it to meditation or transcendence.
He and his close friend and fellow wingsuit flyer, Graham Hunt, planned to jump from Taft Point, a scenic overlook with a sheer drop into the valley below. On May 16, 2015, two of the renowned figures stood at the edge of Taft Point, a 7,500-foot overlook above Yosemite Valley. With their wingsuits zipped and GoPros mounted, their plan was clear: a team wingsuit base jump into the void, banking along the iconic granite cliffs of Yosemite. It was a jump both men had done before, but this time, they aimed for a tighter flight path, which was closer to the rock, more exhilarating, more dangerous.
They leapt at sunset, flying side by side into the canyon, but within seconds, something went wrong. Neither Potter nor Hunt deployed their parachutes.
Their spotter reported hearing what she thought sounded like parachutes opening or an impact sound.
She couldn't see them crash and called out to them. She tried to contact them via text as they had planned, but there was no response.
Around 9 p.m., she informed park officials of their disappearance, and a search and rescue operation was launched early Sunday morning, with up to 100 people, including park rangers and volunteers, surveying the park for the men. They discovered their bodies roughly 1,500 feet below their exit point.
Investigators determined that the men struck a rocky outcrop during their descent, likely due to a miscalculated turn or an unexpected gust.
There was no parachute deployment at all, and the crash was fatal and immediate. Johnny Strange.
In late September 2015, 23-year-old Johnny Strange, a Malibu-born adventurer celebrated for climbing the 7 summits by age 17 and filming jaw-dropping proximity flights, embarked on a record-setting wingsuit jump from Mount Gitchen in the Swiss Alps. He took off around midday, aiming to craft a viral flight. Flight footage shows him slicing through narrow alpine corridors at about 120 miles per hour, weaving through pinnacles and pine forests. But a sudden gust or split-second misjudgment threw off his path. Mid-flight, Johnny collided with a cliff face on the mountain. The impact was immediate and fatal, and his body struck the ground moments later. Swiss officials confirmed he did not deploy a parachute, and his injuries were catastrophic. Mark Sutton.
Mark Sutton, a 41-year-old British wingsuit pilot, was internationally recognized as James Bond's stunt double in the 2012 London Olympics opening ceremony, where he parachuted alongside a Queen Elizabeth II double in a globally televised segment watched by over 1 billion viewers. On August 14, 2013, Sutton jumped from a helicopter above the Les Grands Hautans. It is an area and part of the Mont Blanc Massif in the Swiss Alps, near the French border. But this flight wasn't choreographed. It was part of a private event organized by Epic TV, where top wingsuit athletes were being filmed performing high-risk mountain flights in the Alps. Sutton launched from an altitude of 10,800 feet in a specially designed wingsuit, aiming to skim the rugged alpine terrain at extreme speed. But less than a minute into the flight, he veered off course and collided with a mountain ridge near Trient, on the Swiss side of the Massif. The impact was estimated at 155 miles per hour, 250 kilometers per hour, and he died on impact. His injuries were so severe that DNA testing was required to confirm his identity. Rescue crews, including helicopters and alpine specialists, reached the scene hours later. It was one of the most high-profile wingsuit deaths ever recorded, and a reminder of the unforgiving precision this sport demands. Tier 2. Personal projects gone wrong. Graham Dickinson. In January 2017, Graham Dickinson, a 28-year-old Canadian wingsuit pilot, renowned for his daring rides, traveled to Tianmen Mountain in Hunan Province, China. Just months earlier, he had claimed bronze at the 2016 World Wingsuit League Grand Prix held on the same cliffs. Dickinson signed an agreement with park officials on January 15, granting himself legal clearance to train in the breathtaking canyon terrain. Known for terrain flying, he perfected the art of skimming razor-thin rock formations, often with GoPro cameras in tow. But this time, something went wrong. After a planned jump, Dickinson did not return. His landlord reported him missing the next day, and the search began immediately. A 30-person rescue team combed the sandstone pillars and vertical cliffs. The following morning, they spotted Graham's body, still wearing his wingsuit, nestled against a remote cliff face. There was no parachute deployment, and he had died instantly. Yonatan Tarango. On July 21, 2022, Yonatan Ben Moshe Tarango, a 45-year-old Israeli wingsuit flyer and mountain climbing instructor, launched from a high ridge above the Mont Blanc Massif on the Italian side near Aiguille-Creux. He and a friend began their flight from about 3,250 meters, 10,600 feet, aiming to glide near the mountain's steep slopes. As they were flying, Tarango glided too close to the slope and impacted the mountain at 2,200 meters, 7,200 feet. The collision was immediate and fatal. He did not deploy a parachute, and no survivors witnessed the impact. The Italian rescue team recovered his body shortly thereafter, and the Israeli Foreign Ministry later confirmed his death and coordinated with his family for repatriation. Matthew Kenny. Matthew Kenny was a 29-year-old Santa Cruz native and had built a name for himself as a skydiving instructor, with over 5,000 jumps under his belt. That January, Kenny traveled to the Paria Canyon Vermilion Cliffs Wilderness, a remote and technically demanding location along the Arizona-Utah border. It was known among wingsuit pilots for its dramatic cliffs, deep canyons, and the sheer scale of vertical drop it offered. Kenny was flying with a small group of experienced jumpers, attempting a proximity flight. In early January of 2016, Matthew departed from a narrow cliff, but moments after launching, things took a dark turn. He collided with a rocky wall about 600 feet below his jump-off point, crashing into the canyon with fatal force. He suffered catastrophic blunt force trauma, confirmed by the Coconino County Medical Examiner as the cause of death, but the rocky terrain wasn't his only peril. His body was lodged within a crevice, trapped 600 feet down in rugged cliffs, where ice-hardened ledges prevented helicopter access and ground teams from reaching him quickly. For 5 days, the technical rescue team, including climbers hired by his family, had to rappel into the remote canyon just to reach him. They retrieved Kenny on January 17th, lowering him to a slope for helicopter extraction. Tier 3. Violent collision and unidentifiable remains. Victor Kovacs. On October 8, 2013, the towering cliffs of Tianmen Mountain in China were the backdrop for the inaugural World Wingsuit League Championship. It was a race where elite pilots sliced through narrow valleys at speeds over 100 miles per hour. Hungarian wingsuit flyer Victor Kovacs, 40, was among the competitors. He was known for his precision and calmness under pressure. Kovacs was performing a test flight ahead of the finals and launched from a helicopter above the iconic Heaven's Gate rock arch. His goal was to navigate a sharp descent into the forested basin, with cameras rolling and spectators watching live from below. But something went wrong just before the final stretch.
Kovacs was seen gliding normally until his parachute failed to deploy. There was no last-minute flare, no attempt at a secondary chute. Eyewitnesses said he vanished from view behind a cliff wall, and everything went silent. His body was discovered the next morning by a massive search team that scoured the forest with drones, helicopters, and rescue dogs.
He had crashed into a 100-meter cliff face and died on impact. Officials later confirmed that his main parachute never opened. The event was immediately suspended.
Dario Barrio.
On June 6, 2014, Spanish television star Dario Barrio suited up in a wingsuit for a flight dedicated to a fallen friend. He was performing at the International Air Festival in Jaén, Spain, and soaring over the medieval town of Segura de la Sierra. It was meant to be a tribute jump in honor of Álvaro Bultó, another wingsuit pilot who had died the year before. Barrio was a seasoned base jumper and beloved chef on Spanish TV, and had over 800 jumps to his name. The flight was filmed for promotional use, and he launched from a helicopter above the ridge, wearing a bright-colored suit designed for visual tracking.
His objective was to fly over the iconic Castle Hill, perform a clean flare, and land near the base platform. But seconds after deployment, he veered off course and slammed into a rock wall.
Rescue teams were scrambled, but it was too late. Barrio had suffered fatal blunt force injuries and died on impact.
The entire event crowd, including his friends and family, witnessed the accident unfold in real time.
There was no equipment malfunction reported, and officials stated that wind conditions may have shifted abruptly, throwing off his trajectory during a technical turn. Dwayne Weston.
Dwayne Weston was a highly respected figure in the world of skydiving and base jumping. He had completed over 1,200 jumps and was widely considered a pioneer in wingsuit flying. He originally trained as a computer programmer, but Weston abandoned a conventional life to pursue extreme flight full-time.
So when the Go Fast Games were held at the Royal Gorge Bridge in Colorado, Weston was invited as one of the star performers. He had carefully prepared for it, calculating his speed, trajectory, and timing. And on October 5th, 2003, Dwayne Weston prepared for his daring spectacle. The Royal Gorge Bridge is the highest suspension bridge in the United States, towering at 955 feet above the Arkansas River. The plan was for him to jump from an airplane, glide at approximately 120 miles per hour in his wingsuit, and fly over the bridge in front of a live audience gathered below, while spectators, base jumpers, and the media were watching.
But just seconds into the flight, everything went catastrophically wrong. As Weston approached the bridge at terminal speed, he misjudged wind currents and his trajectory. Instead of soaring above the structure, he collided directly with the railing, hitting it with such speed that it severed one of his legs. After the impact with the bridge, Weston's parachute deployed, and he fell onto a rock face about 300 feet, 91 meters, from the bottom of the gorge, where he bled to death. His remains landed near a parking lot beside shocked spectators. The crowd thought it was part of the stunt, and many even clapped until emergency responders arrived.
If you liked this video, subscribe for similar ones or leave a comment to suggest another.